So first things first. You know, when this topic came up for Engage, I really asked myself what more there was that I could possibly tell you on the topic of love. Because I'm still out here living my best life. And I'm having my little party at my bus stop. And since I know all of you are wondering, let's just dispense with this now. There has been some progress. But you're still going to have to be a little bit more patient. And so I really struggled with this question, with this topic. And like the good lawyer that I am, I did some research. And I listened to Miss Tina Turner, and I analyzed her words, and I found myself agreeing with her, just a little bit. And I thought about life in general. I thought about love. What's love got to do with it? And then my thoughts took me to work and climate change and the economy, because I feel like they're all related. But ultimately, it took me to the various modes of transportation that have brought me to this new decade that we have recently jumped into. And this is where I alighted. So I asked myself, what is it that you have in store for you this particular decade? But to answer that, perhaps, I first need to answer what it is that I have learned over the last 4 decades of my existence. And so this is going to be a little glimpse into what I am now calling the New Decade Love Starter Pack. Are you ready? So first off, I have learned that I love myself. And I've learned to love saying it, not in an arrogant way, but with just the right amount of modest sassiness that is required and politically correct. And especially in this day and age where so many are struggling to find meaning and purpose in their own lives, I think it's important to say it and to say it loud and to really believe that we are all here for a reason. So I'm going to ask all of you to say it with me. I love myself. I love myself. Well done. I almost believe you. I have learned that I love family. And you know, we don't choose our family most of the time anyway. By some cosmic miracle of the Almighty, some eggs get fertilized by the strongest swimmers in the group. And just like that, you are now officially and legally a member of another group of cells, atoms, all connected by blood or by affinity, or by law over a period of 2 or 3 generations, because apparently that's what a family is. Now, these people don't need to like you. And you don't need to love them. But if you choose to, I find that it lights such a wonderful, warm fire of belonging. And hanging out with these people can actually be lots of fun. And I think these times are precious, especially now when we are going to be celebrating 10 years since my father's passed. And I think growing up, I always thought my dad was going to be around forever, as most girls. Don't we think that? They're always going to be with us. And so I'm learning to make the choice every day when I wake up to fall in love again, over and over, with these people that I call my family. So I'm going to invite you again to say, I love my family. I love the work that I do. And that's a bit of I know it's a strange one, but I've been really fortunate because I love the magic that we create. I love the beauty that we create, the talent that we uncover. I love the way we solve our problems. And I love the impact, the palpable impact it has on people and their lives, more importantly. But the best part of it is being able to share it with the world. That, honestly, there's little else like it. You know, my mom and my dad showed us what it meant to be hard-working individuals. And I know most people say that, it sounds very cliche, but let me explain to you what used to happen in our household. On the way back from school, my mom would pick us up and we would pass by her office. And she would teach us what she used to do. We would help her with her work. So much so that I am an excellent filer. I'm going to give you a little tidbit on how to file perfectly. You take a paper, Exhibit A. You fold it in half, cleanly. Then you put it through the hole puncher and you punch. You continue repeating this process diligently. And that is how to avoid those funny papers that are crooked in your file. You will thank me and you'll thank my mom later. My dad, on holidays, would not believe in us sleeping past 8 a.m. We would be put in the car with him and taken to his office. There we would follow instructions like the good children that we were. We would man the reception, make coffee, welcome the clients, run errands, deliver packages. We basically had a front row seat to what work looked like when people who loved it and enjoyed what they were doing and were really good at it were working. And that is what influenced, I think, my work ethic right now. I also love teaching the little things that I know because I still think it's something, even if it's just small. And to those of you who think I must hold a doctorate in education to be able to teach, I say that I have decades of experience from the school of just do it in life. And because I was able to learn from the best teacher, who was my dad. And because I was also fortunate to find things that I'm passionate about, because my dad was passionate about entrepreneurship, he was passionate about the generation that followed his, he was passionate about this country. And so I love the intellectual stimulation I get from law and the way we practice it. And I love the warmth and the feeding of my soul and my heart that the creative space gives me. And I think that I was fortunate to identify these things early on in life. Now, I know this one might be a little bit hard for some of you, but I'm going to invite you to say, I love my work. And if it's not true, please go and ask yourself this question. Because life is short, so please make sure you're doing the thing that you love. I have learned that I love ships. Friendships, situationships, relationships. In the context of friendships, I have learned that there is a difference between friends and acquaintances. And I have learned that it's not a must that all your acquaintances must now become your friends. And I'm completely at peace with that fact. In the context of situationships, well, I think you all know my position on those, so they are important in life. Have them often. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. In the context of relationships, more specifically romantic relationships, well, I'm learning that our expectations of ourselves and of others keep changing. And the reason for this is something that we are now going to start calling the shiny wrapping paper theory. Repeat after me, class. It goes a little like this. Do you remember when we were kids and we would go to parties and we would be given gifts that were wrapped in shiny wrapping paper? Do you remember that? Do you remember how excited we got? And our eyes would grow bigger and we wouldn't even be able to breathe properly just because we were so excited. And we sat down to get to the business of violently unwrapping this gift. And it got to the point where you would unwrap and unwrap and unwrap what seemed to be almost 1,000 layers of this shiny wrapping paper, only to find some little plastic toy or a keychain or some insignificant gift. But we were so excited. We would run squealing with joy and show our mom or show our friends. In my teens, I was the shiny wrapping paper, and I was the gift. Let me tell you guys, I was such a hot number in my teens. I was shiny, I was in high demand, and I caused a lot of excitement everywhere that I went. All you needed to be was cute, like me. You needed to look good by my side. You needed to treat me and my sisters and my friends very, very well. And that was literally all you needed for me to consider your application. Do you see how simple life was back then? In my 20s, the shiny wrapping paper was the gift. I didn't do much dating in my 20s, strangely enough, because I had suffered a heart crack in my teenage years. We're calling it heart crack because it's easier to mend a cracked heart than a broken one. So I suffered heart crack in my teenage years, and I think it left me a little jaded, just a little bit. But eventually, I was ready to start again and to try again. But you guys, I was so out of practice. Those guys were the shiny wrapping paper now. They just looked shiny. And I never really took the time to sit down, because in your 20s, you should be careful about the things you do, or so they say. You should carefully and tediously unwrap the package. And in my case, I found that I was doing it so that I could save the wrapping paper. Not necessarily so I could get to the gift. Maybe even use the wrapping paper again. I don't know. I think in my 20s, the shine of this wrapping paper mesmerized me. And I felt I had lost so much time and I wanted to catch up. And it confused me a little. In my 30s, I started unwrapping this gift, now with intention, and then I got distracted. It's like an alarm went off in my mind and it said, "You're running out of time." I don't know why, though. And it said, at this point in your life, it doesn't make sense to focus on just one gift, surely. It didn't seem wise, and I always fancied myself as a wise person. And so I allowed myself to experience all these other gifts that were there. Interestingly enough, they weren't very well wrapped. Some of them were barely wrapped at all. But I thought I owed it to myself to explore and experience. And so I went back to school. You know, I got my master's in my field of passion. And I traveled. I released my debut album. And I kissed many people. And I didn't tell. In my 40s, I now know exactly what I need for me. And sometimes it doesn't even come in a shiny wrapping paper. It comes like in a brown paper bag or a newspaper. Sometimes the exterior is very unappealing. The way nyama comes from the butchery, you know, the way that it is the prize that is being brought home by the man who has worked hard. But it is safely and securely wrapped. That nyama never falls down. Some of you will get it tomorrow at the roundabout. But I've learned that I am now determined to start the unwrapping process again. I'm determined to get through the excitement of my teenage years. I'm determined to get past the confusion of the shiny allure of my 20s. I'm determined to get past the distraction of my 30s. And I'm actually determined to complete this unwrapping process. Fun fact, the World Health Organization has declared 2020 to 2030 as the decade of healthy aging. Did you know this? You're welcome. You can go and Google it later. But it got me thinking about age. Because guys, this is the decade that I turn 50. And even just hearing my mouth say it and my voice, it's refusing. It sounds insane, like I'm talking about somebody else. Because for those of you who know me, I usually feel, look, and act at least 25. At least, with 5 years of wisdomed experience, or at least that's what I'd like to think. And so just the thought that this is the decade I'm going to move to a new age bracket in those forms. You know, when they ask you to fill and tick which age you are at, I'm now going to move to another one. It's kind of scary, man. And it's got me asking myself, is this where I'm supposed to be? And because I believe in God and I have utmost faith, I know this is exactly where I'm supposed to be at this particular time. Here, on this stage, talking to you people. And so, the lessons that I have learned to this point and continue to learn is that we are going to experience love in every single facet of our lives, guys. And that it will morph and change with each decade. Each decade, your shining wrapping paper is going to change, be it a new job, or more money, or a new love in your life, or a baby, or a nice hot guy, whatever it is. Hallelujah. Whatever it is, we all love gifts. But I think what I have learned is that we have to be intentional about digging deeper and not ignoring the gifts that are wrapped in brown wrapping paper or newspaper. Don't ignore those, guys. And try and look past the shiny wrapping paper, because maybe, just maybe, that is where your love lies. Thank you.